Hello and welcome to another Soulution Sunday, because the soul is the solution. I am Lisa Warner. I'm the author of The Simplicity of Self-Healing, and today I am here with our good friend and regular guest, Keith Leon S., who is the author of this phenomenal book, Walking with My Angels. If you have not read Keith's book, I highly, highly recommend it. It is a book about his life. It's real stories about how he has had angelic guidance for his lifetime and how he now walks with his angels as the angel that he is. So Keith, good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to say happy Sunday, everyone.
Yes, indeed.
Happy Sunday. Good to see you all again.
So Keith, let's talk about your book this morning for a little while, because you've had some pretty extraordinary experiences. How did you come to write your book?
Oh boy, that is a great question. You'll read about it in the book, but the shortest way I could tell it is I could hear my guardian angel's voice since I was a child, and had contact with angels through junior high, high school, somewhere in there. And that's where I started to kind of party and forget, right? Mostly I was trying to forget and not deal with all the stuff that was going on in my household with my mom and my sister and my family. And a way to push that out was, drinking and drugging. So I kind of did that through high school. And then I found myself up in Fresno in my, right after I graduated from, graduated from, did like what was it, year and a half in college, and then quit that, and then was up in Fresno, went to go visit my sister, ended up staying there, and got a job as a bartender. And eventually, while I was bartending, I met a person who I got to know and befriended, and just had this feeling that I should ask him to hang out after work. And he said yes. And he was very interesting, very intriguing. And so I ended up really getting to be good friends with him and hanging out a lot. And eventually, at one point, after a lot of him doing things to kind of have me start to believe in stuff again, believe in anything, because I didn't really believe in anything at that point. So he was slowly taking me to believing in some things. And then eventually, long story short, or maybe not, long story long at this point, I love that when people say long story short after they've just babbled on for 5 minutes, but I did that. So eventually he ended up telling me that he was an earthbound angel, a real earthbound angel, that a lot of times we call people that do good deeds and things for us earthbound angels. But really, earthbound angels are they're angels who are drop-ins. So they dropped into a body that maybe somebody had like committed suicide, but nobody knew. So they swap with them, pop in, assume that identity. They come in, and then they're assigned to certain people to do certain things. And so a lot of times it's get with someone like he had with me, get to know them, befriend them, and eventually tell them, like he was telling me, that he was here to work with me and to take me from believing in nothing to believing in everything. And so he'd be working with me to do that. And then at some point, he would save my life. And once he saved my life, he would have to leave. So the answer to your question is, part of that process of being taught, mentored, shown miracles every day, doing miracles, just to really get me to believe it, have me do it instead of him do it. That's what it took for this thick brain to believe. I eventually he facilitated an out of body experience where I met with around a campfire with all these entities, and they all gave me wisdom and told me what my purpose was on earth and what I was here to do. And so one of those things was I was told I would write a book about my experiences with angels, and it would be called Walking with My Angels. So I like to say their title, not mine, right? A true story. I came up with a true story because it is. And so Walking with My Angels is a true story. So I was told that I would write that book. And then again, that's my early 20s. Time went on and on and on and on and on and on. And now I'm in my 40s. And then finally I was told it was time to write the book. So I got to it once I found out it was time. Cranked that thing out. It was really 3 books that I wrote in 9 days. 3 books in 9 days. So if you ever said, oh, been working on a book for a year, wrap it up. Get to work. You can do it. So 3 books in 9 days, which ended up being edited down to 1 thick book because the editors, I wanted to do it in a series of 3 books, like those grocery store books, where you pick up one and then you come back for the second one, and it's like a series. That's what I was downloaded and told way back that it would be. And then when it came to it, though, my editors were like, right where the first book ends, I would be so mad at you if you left me hanging right there. And so upon their suggestion in reading it, they really felt strongly that it should be 1 book. And so I took feedback from my universe, and they tapped into the angels that they are now and helped me just decide to do it in 1 book. So it's a really long answer, but it's not a short answer. How did that book come about? I was told I would do it, and I did. I do what I'm told.
Bravo, especially when it's being told to do it by an angel.
Right. Yeah, well, there was like ancestors there, and Jesus was there, and I talk about an old American Indian, very wise man. He was there, and then if on my angel cards, there's a wise old Indian man, and when I had the person who did the art for the cards, I just gave her the name of the angels and didn't tell her who any of them are or anything about them. I just asked her to ask them, how do you want me to paint you? And so she did a painting of each of them. And it was interesting because when she sent one of the pictures, I was like, oh my God, because it was she had channeled through, right? The man that I described in the book, she painted. So it's in the angel cards. So it's interesting how it all is always connecting all the time, especially when I'm paying attention.
Right?
I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yes, we have the angel cards right here. So I love this story. It's really like the story of It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, it's very similar to Clarence the angel and saves Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, it's like A Wonderful Life meets Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Because when I read that book, I was still waiting to be told to write mine. And when I read Way of the Peaceful Warrior, I was like, oh my God, because I swear it's the same angel, because just even the way the first time that he wanted to kind of prove to me who he was, that was the same. Like a lot of the things were the same. So I figured either he had been following me around during that time taking notes, or it was the same angel, because even some of the words he spoke, some of the things he said were so exact that I was like, oh man, so if I write my book, then great thing is I had so many other things to choose from, right? That I was able to omit those things so that people didn't think I was just like copying that book or something. But very interesting to me when I read that book. And then it was away after the book came out. I think Mara said, did you ever see that movie? We watched it together, and I was like, whoa, whoa. Because if I saw it, my mom did have me watch probably every classic movie ever growing up, but I just didn't really remember that one, any details from it. So once I watched it again, I agree with you. It's like those two things kind of merged, and that's a lot of what happened. Yeah.
Wow. So why do you think that there are some humans that have angels assigned to them and others that don't?
Well, we all have guardian angels. So everyone has at least one guardian angel. Some have a posse like I do, but right, or two. But and the guardian angels are just to get you to your predetermined expiration date, the date that you're agreed to be here until. And there's so many moving parts now, especially these days, ways that we could get taken out ahead of our time. And so they're here to kind of move things. Like that time you grabbed the steering wheel and said somebody else grabbed the steering wheel, they did, right? All those times. So there's that. But the earthbound angels that I'm speaking of, the people that they're contacting are people who are here to make a profound difference on the planet who would have otherwise taken themselves out. Like in my case, I would have probably OD'd, because that was my deep dark drug phase, the way I like to put it. And that's when it came to me. And so when he said, "I will save your life one day," I thought, I'd be walking down an alley and then get jumped and he'd pop out and kung fu everybody, or or I'd be standing in front of a car and he'd swoop in and push me out. I thought it was going to be something drastic like that, but ultimately it was to save me from dying of drug overdose, because he showed up, and it's in the book. He showed up at one point and and just put me in front of a mirror and said, "You have 2 weeks to live or die. It's your choice. And either way, I'm not going to watch it happen," and walked out on me and left me in front of the mirror. And everything that he had ever said, ever, came true, including, world predictions, the way my day was going to go, everything he ever said was true. So if he said, "I have 2 weeks to live," I knew that if I kept going down the road that I was going, then I was a goner. And I did have a choice to make, because at that point I wasn't clear if I wanted to live or not.
Mhm.
And so even with all I had seen, and with him, it just part of it felt like a huge burden. Right, once I found out why I was here, like, no pressure though. Right. Touch and inspire the lives of millions, no pressure at all. Add that, throw that on top of everything else I'm trying to avoid. Right, so it was
Mhm.
quite an experience. So earthbound angels are assigned to people who are, the way that he put it was, if you died before your expiration date, it would have a not so great effect on the planet. I don't know what that means. I assumed the work that I was here to do wouldn't happen. Maybe there's someone or a group or uh, light workers, whatever, that are inspired by my work that go on to do other work that makes a difference. Like we never know the answer to something that vast. But one of the things I remembered was being told about touching the lives of millions of people. So that's really why I got into publishing, because I knew that the more people I could help get their their work, right, their life changing work out to the world, that I could reach that number fast. Right, because it doesn't have to be, it's me directly touching the world. Right, so I kind of got in service to other people, and that's what got me into publishing. And then my books started doing well as well. And at one point, one of my friends said, "Oh, you've already done it," and he just started helping me add up things and do the math. How many books were published? How many of my books published? How many shows have I done? How many things have I been on? How many people has that touched? Everybody whose book that I did, that they've handed out, how many lives that's touched? And eventually I was like, "Oh, wow, I've surpassed what they told me," which was an amazing feeling to finally feel like, okay, I did that. Right? And
Wow.
now I'm venturing out into what has always been my ultimate dream, which is filmmaking. So I know that that's going to also touch lives as well, because the type of movies that I want to do are all going to be like films that make a difference, not the typical Hollywood feel good for 5 minutes stuff, but things that will evoke conversations, that perhaps those conversations will end up moving forward into bringing change onto the planet as well.
Indeed. I think your story is really runs parallel to so many light workers stories, of
Mm.
being on this planet and just not being able to manage the insanity and the just the the hatred and all of these really heavy energies that are not heart centered, and so many of us wind up on the verge of suicide, or on the brink of disaster, because we just can't function in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I've had a leg over a few times.
Yeah, me
And
too, for sure.
leg over, yeah, leg over on the freeway overpass one time, leg over on a balcony up on the 14th floor another. But uh, fortunately, I've been saved in away each time, and it kept me here. And uh, all of that had, there was beauty to that as well, right? Because all of that has led to the last series of years where I've been able to deal with this last few years in a different way than a lot. And a lot of people are really struggling, really going through a hard time right now, uh, watching traditional news and just being fed, all the fear, and just fear and fear, 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 fear sandwich. And there's what I learned from my angel is that there's light in everything. And so even if I look at something that appears to not feel great at the time and say, what's in it for me to learn, what's the lesson in this, then I'm able to look at everything and ask those questions. What's in this for humanity, right? The pandemic that we've been dealing with, right, the last couple of years, what's in this for everyone. And when people say the world will never be the same again, I feel like that is very, very true, um, and in a good way. I think more people are awakening to just things they didn't know before, because people, a lot of people who had a great message to share didn't felt like if they came out with that message, they would be shunned, right, or censored or eliminated, and they are, right? They are
Yeah,
being that.
yeah,
And the interesting thing, though, is that it feels like then that's just making uh, more people who had a message that would have not come out say, oh yeah, then, and come out, right, and say it, and and that's all good, because you know I feel like we always need to look at both sides of everything. So
yeah,
a lot of the people who are would have been called conspiracy theorists now, because we live in a digital age with proof and cameras and things, are able to capture and or present um, facts behind the things that they used to, it used to be called conspiracy theories because they didn't have anything to back it. So I've just seen a lot more of like, wow, really, uh, uh, really, let me watch that, and then actually seeing uh, proof of it, like physical proof of it. And so it's been an interesting time, and I really do feel like the world will never be the same again, because I think less and less people are walking asleep, lockstep, just following, following whatever they're told without doubting it. And that's kind of the hypnotism that has it's all set up to even from school. If you think about the way school is, it's very kind of military. It's kind of industrial worker, the bells, and quiet, raise your hand, like the whole system. It's not like organic or free to uh, students' interpretation or how they feel. It's very like shut up and sit down, right? So it's like
yeah.
seems like everything as we're growing up is kind of like just do what you're told, do what you're told. So that's where I feel like the massive shift is happening. It's more and more people are now questioning and discerning for themselves instead of just automatically saying, okay, I will do what I'm told. And that's one of the things that I feel is the beauty in all that we're going through right now. And I have to look at it that way,
For sure.
right? I have to see the light in everything, and that's what keeps me moving forward instead of in a corner in the dark, right? With some other people that are just like, I can't handle this. This is too much. It's too big. It's too ugly. It's too crazy. It's too fill in the blank, and are going to the darkness instead of the light with it. And it is really all how we perceive it, right? And our whole life is what we create by how we feel and the words that we say. And that's really important to more than ever to know right now. We can go either way. Right? Go either way really fast. And so I've been choosing to focus on the light and what's for me to learn from this, what's the good in this, what's going to be the beauty on the other side of this, because I do see another side of this. Right?
Yeah.
So I know I just opened a huge can of worms, but they're just flowing and going this morning. That's what we do, right?
You got it. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, that whole thing that you were talking about that with, the conspiracy theorists and things is that traditionally in the past, anyone who has spoken truth, spoken out against the powers that be and the injustices in the world have literally been nailed to a cross or burned at the stake or beheaded. And, they've just been taken out of the game. And so many of us are aware of that history and, have been afraid of speaking the truth for fear of being offed, but now we see that, if we all speak out, there are too many of us to just keep offing people. Like, it's just
Right.
not gonna happen. Like, we're already
Right.
seeing the patterns of the people that have, suddenly wound up not living. And we start to put the pieces together and say, oh, all right, so now we start to see that there is a beautiful heaven on earth that's waiting for us when we start to be the angelic beings of light that we are, and we start to speak from our heart, and we start to speak the truth. People can hear that even if they don't know that what we're saying is true, or they still believe what the other rhetoric is. There's a heart-to-heart communication, there's an energetic communication that happens. And
and even some of the rhetoric, that seeming rhetoric that's true, the discernment part is why then. Right? If they want me to know this, then why? I was in the media, directly in media, in TV for about 7 years when we add it all together. And what I learned in the first 5.5 was that the words conspiracy theory were created by mainstream media. And the definition of conspiracy theory is anything not reported by the mainstream media. Like, if they don't cover it, then that's what they called it. And even back then, I mean, this is way back, right? 90s. Even in the 90s, I was like, that just felt so weird to me, right? I was just like, whoa. So anything that the mainstream media, and then there was a whole another level in that. The reason I got out of media is because I saw and had to sign off on so many, like, knowing so many stories that were purely fabricated to sell a product or put fear into people. And I had to sign that I wouldn't share that I worked on that project. And then I would go home and watch it on the news that evening. And then the story would be the story, like, let's say it's about scaring people into taking a certain drug. And then, so that was the story set up. And then right after the story, oh, now we're going to go to a commercial. And the first commercial was selling the drug that was the cure to the story that had just come. So it was, for me, it was like, how are people not seeing this? How did they not notice that? And I just felt so kind of dirty after a while that that's why I had to get out of it. I was like, I don't want to be in this because it's just craziness, right? All that I was seeing and the manipulation and all of that. And so for me, when everything shut down and what I think what they didn't know, they wanted to shut us down, keep us away from each other, but they didn't really know the power yet of YouTube and that people would just get on their camera and start connecting that way and then start sharing things and that's why all the censoring has been happening. They're like, oh crap, if everybody starts talking to each other like this, there could be trouble. People might start trying to think for themselves. We can't have that. And so that's pew, 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 all the censoring started coming in. And I was like, of course, like I really could have, I wrote and could have wrote a lot of what's been happening, 2 years ago. But I really, other than right now on your on your show, I just don't even talk about this stuff because the message that I love to give is, people tapping into your angels, your inner guidance, realizing that you have a direct connection with spirit and source, and that none of that matters. That stuff that's going outside. As a matter of fact, shut it off, tune it out. And that I'm not talking about spiritual bypass and pretend like it's not happening. I'm suggesting to not let it be a focus or a priority of how you live your everyday life, because the thoughts that you have, the things that you think, what comes in is what goes out and then creates your outer reality, but only every time if you really kept track of it. Right? Everything you say, everything you think, everything that you set up with your beliefs like unfolds and happens before your eyes. Even if that's belief that you can't do it, then that shows up. You can't. I think
Exactly.
was it Ford? I think somebody like
Yep.
I would never think said if you can't do it.
Yep.
Then,
Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
yeah. I know it blows my mind. Some of the quotes, the people they come from, it's like, wow,
I know, right?
who knew?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have John saying, "Totally love your message, Keith. Seeing a live angel or spirit changes you forever. There's
Yeah.
no going back to who you were before. I had a Navajo spirit walk 4 or 5 elk out to me while hunting in the country in Colorado. At my last elk harvest, my gut told me to bring back rocks, so I did. And when I got home, one rock is his face with the same expression on the face."
Oh, powerful. Yeah, it really does change you forever. And it's like we have to tell people about it, right? That's another thing that, if you were someone who didn't talk to people, didn't get on stage, or didn't write books, or didn't do all that stuff before, that's something that changes as well. You realize, like, wow, I can't keep this to myself. It serves no one. So it's like stretches you right out of your comfort zone. I'm naturally an introvert. Uh, I recharge alone. If I speak in front of people, all my energy goes out and it gets drained. So after I've spoke at an event and met with people, I am wiped out, like I did a triathlon, like that much. And it takes me time to recover, right? And it feels like no matter what, all the tools and all the speakers, all my mentors, all people that are energy people have taught me to do, still wiped. If it's a big room, maybe smaller events, I can do well and get away with it. But big events, I'm sapped, right? So that alone would have made me feel like if I didn't have this message to share, and that's my driving factor, my core value, sharing this with the world. First time I did a big event, I would have went, no, that's it. No more of that. All right, only 20, 30 people, I'll just stick to that. However, I realized, how do I get the message out to the masses doing that, right? So that's why I do say yes to everything, the podcasts, videos, radio interviews, all of that. I just say yes, because that's how we're able to reach the masses, right? If you hear something that meant something to you today that really landed, and you share it with 3 people, and then they share it with one, it just, that's the way it works. With my angel book, I was told like how many copies of that I would sell, and I was like, really? Right? This is way back. I remember I believed in nothing, so trust me, that number, I was like, yeah, okay. And and that was another thing, that the actual book sales, and then then there was Kindle, and there was audiobook, uh and I remember telling a friend like, that's a huge number, and but they also said whoever holds the book in their hands will be raised to their next level of vibration, and it will be this many people, and they gave me a number. And so one of my friends was like, okay, well, first of all, it's hold it in their hands, not read it. So everybody who bought the physical book, if they just like toss it on their coffee table, every person that comes over and goes, what's this book, and picks it up and puts it down, already received what they were supposed to receive, right? They're raised to their next level of vibration. I was like, yeah. And then Kindle, how Kindle reader, do people hold that in their hands? I go, yeah. he's like uh he's like, audiobook, right? People love audiobooks. If they hear it, I'm sure it does the same thing. I'm like, yeah. Right. Like, so that's how you're reaching that number. It isn't necessarily by the number of books sold. It's how many people it reaches from there, and them sharing the stories, or saying, hey, do you know there's another kind of earthbound angel? And that was kind of my favorite thing, was the very beginning, when all that happened to me. What you'll read in the book, I was told by my angel, do not tell anybody about this. Do not speak of these things. Because in the 90s, if you shared the things that I shared in that book, they would find a nice white jacket for you, a padded place, and give you some meds. Mm-hmm. And that's what they would have done back then. And so I waited and waited. And eventually I was speaking at events, mainly about books and other types of training at that point, not out of the angel closet yet. And however, there would be other angel people. And so all this to say, the fun thing was there was a few well-known angel people that, if you're into angel people, you would know, who I remember saying, telling them about real earthbound angels. And one of them saying, earthbound what now? Wait, what? Tell me more, say more about that. And blowing the minds of 2 particular angel people, with the knowledge that I had about the drop-ins and the things that I said at the beginning, and how they're here to put people on the path and keep them alive, because they're here to make a difference on the world. And it's like it totally landed, rang true for them, but they were just kind of like, because they hadn't been given that message or considered that. So that was fun, and that was early on. That I was still like, but you didn't hear that from me, right? Because I had been told, tell them. So I said, all right, I guess it's time to start coming out with this stuff. And then I did start sharing things with people, just some of the stories that are in the book. I would just share like one story, and everybody I shared it with was going, wow, that's so cool. Not, dude, really? Right? What I expected, I didn't get. What I got was, wow, that's so cool. Ooh, do you have any more of those stories? Are you gonna write a book about that? Are you gonna, all positive feedback, nobody thinking that I was out of my mind. And so I think ultimately that was part of me continuing to ask the question, is it time yet? Is it time yet? And ultimately, I was on a hike with one of my friends up in Vermont, and I was really getting impatient. It had been like 20 some odd years now. And I was like, really? And then she said, hey, when are you going to write that angel book? And I'm like, yeah, when am I? And she's like, what? I was like, oh, sorry, no, that was for them, not you. Not to be, yeah, when am I? As we were hiking. And then I heard it's time, and I go, time to write the book? And then she goes, what? And I'm like, shh. Yeah, right. Like I waited so long. don't cut the stream off. And I heard, yes, it's time. It's time to write the book. And I was like, yes, thank you for asking that question. And so I tell that story in the introduction of the book, because she's a great coach. She immediately jumped into coaching mode and said, "When are you going to start? How's it going to go?" And started coaching me up. And so I wanted to put that in the introduction to make sure she got the credit deserved, because she's the one that finally asked the question that helped me get the yes, and then immediately had me think, when and how was I going to make it happen? Because I was like doing a lot of personal mentoring and coaching, and had a full schedule. So my wife had to book it way out. It's in the book. I think it was like 6 weeks out or something like that, before I could even really start it, the actual writing. So I just worked on the roadmap immediately, which is what I call creating what the book was going to be from front to back, and having that before I started writing. So it was pretty amazing process, channeling through what happened. And up until that point, I remembered some stories and a lot of metaphors and things that this angel taught me during those times. But when I sat down to write it, I was remembering everything. Like he said, and then I said, and then she said, and then I said, and he said, and like the full conversations of what happened, which I had no recall of before. Like I could see myself there, and I had bits and pieces. You know how our mind works, right? Just remembers the part that meant something to it, and so usually selective memory. But this was like full stream of everything, so that I could just witness it like a movie, and then grab the parts that were appropriate for the book. So it's a pretty amazing experience. And then I got to relive and experience all of it over, all the lessons over again.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was powerful. So I feel like if anybody gets anything out of this book, I got 100 times more by being able to write it.
Wow, you have some pretty incredible experiences in
Yeah.
that book. Some
Yeah.
things that are not your everyday, ordinary walking down the street experience.
No. one of my Christian friends would say supernatural experiences.
Ah,
I love that word, supernatural. It's been around forever, but I definitely have an idea of what they mean when they say it.
yeah, so one of the stories that really stood out for me was when you witnessed an accident and then you saw it move backwards in time.
Well, I was in an accident. Yeah. Yeah, you want me to share that?
Sure.
My friend Timar just got, for his birthday, a 69 Mustang, and he wanted to see how fast it would go. And there was this really, really, really long straight strip that we lived really close by, where you could just punch it and go, and there wasn't a light for a very, very long time. And so he just lit it up. And we're going, it's like 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And I'm done. So when he got to 100, I was like, dude, slow down. Started to freak me out, because the light is coming, right? It
Yeah.
is going to come. And now we're going 100. I don't know how long it takes to slow down. So he kind of lets off, and it goes down to 90. And then he starts to actually put the brakes on. And he's like, dude, no brakes. Dude, no brakes. He's screaming. And the light's coming closer and closer and closer. And he's pumping the brakes. And finally, the brakes locked up. And there's few cars in the intersection. We're coming straight at a car from behind it. He swerves off to the left around the car, but there's an island, a little cement island, and on the island is the power box that runs the light. And so we slam into that power box, into that island, that cement island, and I hear glass break, metal crash, just the sound of horrible accident. And then poof, I'm into like what's called there's two versions of life review. This is one of them. So I'm into poof, this movie that starts with me coming out of the womb, literally, right? And then from then on, and it's like a film, and it's really fast. It's clips of all the things that had happened up until that point. And I'm like 17 at the time. All these clips of all the kind of main things that happened in my life that were life-changing moments, whether I had realized it or not. good and bad, right? Just all these different clips. My dad leaving, my first birthday party, this, and they all came really, really fast up to present moment. Dude, no brakes, crash, and saw that again, and then all the glass, and then all of it goes back, and then the whole film went into reverse. Into reverse, back into the womb. So then when I come to from that, he and I are sitting out of the intersection over to the right, parked on the side of the road, and the engine's running and it's purring. So I open my eyes and I look at him and I'm like, we both go, dude, because Long Beach, California, dude, surfer. That's what you say, dude, right? And he's like, did your laugh flash before your eyes? And I was like, yes. And he's like, did you hear? We're live? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, did you hear glass break and metal, all the stuff? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, my dad's gonna kill me because the car's wrecked, right? He's like, well, my dad's gonna kill me. So we get out of the car. He gets out of the driver's seat. I'm come around the car. And when I come around the car, I see him first. And he's just going like this look of complete shock. And I come around and I look, and the car is perfectly fine. But the left rear hubcap is missing. So we both look in the middle of the intersection, and the hubcap is sitting in the middle of the intersection. So we walk over to the intersection. Now nobody's there. Interesting. People were there. Accident happened. Now nobody's there. Nobody stayed. Nobody's like, hey, make sure we're okay. Hey, like, what's happening? So we pick up the hubcap, and then we look at the island, and the cement in the island was back in the day. There used to be this chunky black asphalt. It wasn't all the gray asphalt that there is now. There was this chunky black soft asphalt, and that's what the island was made of, that the thing was on, the power box. And in the black tar cement, there was a scrape from the wheel that goes right to that box, that power box, that showed us and proved to us with no doubt that we had hit that, and that all that had happened. And then we both had the life review, and then everything reversed. So we're just like trying to process that and put the hubcap back on. He's happy because his dad's not going to kill him now. And he really believed in nothing. And I had been telling him things that I had learned from my guardian angel and things like that back in the time. Remember in the 80s, when you're surely not supposed to be telling people stuff. And I'll just never forget him saying, what, all that God stuff you talk about all the time. Yeah, he goes, all that time I thought you were full of sh, what? And he's like, but now I don't know. Now I don't know. I'm rethinking things. And then the next day he was like, the trees are greener than they ever were. The sky is bluer. He was really like, whoa. And then over time, I don't know if it was a week or two, but after that, it was back to like just doubting, that it even happened. And he just got right back into the disbelief story. But I didn't. I did not. It had shown me everything. It started, it kind of taught me my first understanding and wondering about timeline jumps, things like that, because it had to be. How else could, people stop if there's an accident? People stop and they help you. There's no way someone like slams into a box and then you just drive off like nothing happened. So there was just so much to that particular experience that was for me to say, what's in that for me? What am I to learn? What am I supposed to do with this moving forward? But then again, I was in high school. So like I said, I kind of had the lesson, but then got into what I was doing then and promptly shelved it for later. Right. I guess for the book.
Yeah. I mean, that really just goes to show the power of the rational mind, the programming that we've received.
Oh,
that it's just that's something that we actually experience. We have so much doubt that you could actually experience that the actual experience becomes nullified.
Yeah. Yeah. And back then it was like, you're crazy. That's what people said. If you said anything that was out of the ordinary, you're crazy. So he was like, well, I don't want to be crazy. So
Yeah.
erase. Well, you can't erase that, bro. Like, we can forget it by smoking some weed, right? Push it down and forget, but there's no way you're gonna forget it. This is not gonna happen. So I'm sure that to this day he probably still has flashbacks on that, and I don't know how he is able to process it, but but it's taught me a lot. You know, it taught me a lot when I started reading other books and hearing others' experiences about different types of life review. You know, usually they call that um, when people kind of pass out of their bodies and then they have these types of experiences. So that's another question, right? Like they leave their body and then they have a life review. So did we? You know, like there's just so many unanswered questions in that particular experience. But there was so much learning in it for me.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gone through, a couple of situations where I've had kind of a life review, but I've also gone through, at that point of like ending it all, where that little voice comes in and goes, you know, just because you make your body stop working doesn't mean you just let go of all these problems. Like you're still going to have the exact same problems, but without a body. So now having all these problems, not resolving this stuff, you're going to have to come back and resolve it. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, damn.
Yeah.
I guess I may as well just stick around and actually work through my stuff in this body so that I will actually be able to free myself and make some different choices next time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
Right.
That's a whole nother call. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Exactly. It's like, oh yeah, that was one of I actually still reached that point a couple of times after that initial knowing. I was like, I don't care, I just want out.
Yeah. Yeah. And when somebody goes that way, it's as a knower that that's true, then that's what makes it even harder, to deal with, like friends who or family that takes their own life. It's like if you really believe, oh man, now have to either, right? Either continue to deal with it in the spirit realm or come back and do it all over again. So it's, but that's fine too, right? It's all perfect. We do what we do until we don't do it anymore, or we learn what we learn until we don't have to learn it anymore.
Right.
And it's all perfect, and I think that's the main piece I got from the time with my angel, is that it's all perfect. Like what does that really mean? And so I really do have to back out of every situation and pull myself out from the feeling of it, from the drama of it, from the personalization of things that are going on. And anytime I pull myself out of it and look at it, then I can see the gift and see the beauty in it, and get to it a lot faster than if I just stayed in the way I was feeling, or the drama, or the argument, or the whatever. There is always a higher purpose for everything that happens, including all the stuff going on right now. There is a higher purpose, and to be revealed why all this has happened in the last few years, but it's good. It's good. It'll be worth it. Just hang on, keep loving yourself, keep
Yeah.
loving other people, let them believe and say what they want to believe. It's the whole need to be right thing is so incredibly strong right now, and right can't be proven, because it is only what's right for that person, that which is right. That's the only time it's right, is individually, if it's right for that person in that moment, then great. Whether that's, disagreement about spiritual thoughts or religion or world events or anything, anybody can say anything, and I just go wrong. I never go wrong and then tell them what is. Like, I'm just wrong, never gonna come out of my mouth ever. I'm just gonna go, wow, oh, thank you for sharing that with me. What a great perspective, because that's their truth. And sometimes I may say, may I offer mine, and then offer a perspective, and they can reject it or accept it or just hear it. Not attached. Don't have any need to be right about it. Just if I'm prompted to share it, then I share it, because maybe if I share it from a place of not trying to be right and not having a tone in my voice and not all the ways that some folks communicate, but I'm just share it from love and here's my perspective, and there was no charge on it, then they may hear it and maybe they go, and think about it, and maybe it ends up sending them in a different way later after we parted, and then they go off and do something in the world. Like, we just have no idea what a difference we're making on this planet with every hug, with every share, with every smile, with every story, with anything that we do. It all moves forward in some way or another and makes a difference in some way or another, whether we know it or not. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I always, since the first time, pretty much, I think the first time I ever stood on a stage or did any interview or anything, it was like, so what's the last thing you want to leave people with? And I always shared, you make a difference, right? You've heard it, you know it by heart. You can do it for me right now. I always tell everyone, you make a difference on this planet. This world would not be the same without you. Every smile, every hug, every hello, anything. You may have saved a life one day and didn't even know it, because that person you said hello to didn't feel like they were seen or heard. The fact that you saw and heard them, they talked themselves out of taking their life that day. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't know it because you never saw them again. But so we're all making a profound difference in the world. And so when people get into, I hear so many people say the words like not worthy, not enough, not, fill in the blank. And it's like, if you only had any idea the difference you're making just by being yourself. You don't have to get on a stage, get on a blog, get on anything to make a difference. Just one smile or a hug could make a difference and save someone's life. Yeah. So we're all doing it every day. And how many of us really know that? How could you ever not be enough? And how could you not be worthy? Right? How could you ever not be worthy?
It's but just like, in this world of right and wrong, when other people believe there's right and wrong, and they believe that they're right, and they constantly tell you that you're wrong, like for your entire growing up, for the whole, this is my experience. Yeah. I was just told I was wrong from basically day one. Every time I tried to do any independent thinking or doing something my own way, it was wrong. No matter what it was, I was always wrong. So that for that repetitive, you're wrong, there's, that's not right, you didn't do it right, what's wrong with you? It's like, wow, it just gets really deeply ingrained.
Yeah, if you're told anything enough times, your subconscious mind will believe it. And then if your subconscious mind believes it, you're cooked. So, exactly. But it's just bad math, okay? Not enough. Not enough is just bad math, because it's physically impossible for you to be any more or any less of anything you are right now. Exactly. You could not be skinnier right now. You could not be, right? You couldn't be skinnier right now. This is how you are, right? So all we really have is each moment, the present moment, which is right now, and now, and now. And if I can't be any more or any less of anything right now, how could I be not enough?
Well, and we look at
I'm perfect just the way I am.
Exactly. And each and every soul is created by the Creator as divine, perfect, unique, individual. And there's nothing wrong with any soul ever. So we're all created in divine perfection.
And if I want my body to be lighter, because I will feel healthier, and I will feel better and I might live longer, or all the benefits that come with that, then in this moment, I could make a choice that I want to do something moving forward to make that happen.
Mhm.
So that's productive, as opposed to crap on myself for all the decisions I made in the past.
Yeah.
That got me to this point where now I feel like I have to lose this weight or release this weight. I say, because if you lose it, you'll find it again. But if you release it, you let it go. So there's a tip that might change someone's life today. It changed mine. So it's like anything, like there's nothing back there that's any good for you. I could leave you with anything back there. It's like the only time that's good for you is if in this moment it helps you choose to do something moving forward that is of the light, that makes you feel better, that is beneficial for you. And then as soon as you get the message, leave it back there. Always forward, never backwards. Always forward, never backwards. That's my mantra. Always forward, never backwards. There's nothing back there for me that's any good. Trust me. and if it is, it's like you were asking me to share stories that were in the book, right? Those led to something incredible, which is why I'm willing to tell them again. Some of them were really hard, to tell again, even once, let alone as many times as I've had to share it since. But that just kind of leads me to one more thing. My dear friend, mentor, Jack Canfield, he would get on stage and there was a story that he would share. And he basically, the bigs, they, a lot of times if you see them multiple times, you see like they have the same kind of talk, and some things change here and there, but the main pieces are still there. So he'd tell this one story, and every time he told the story, it was moving, not only to us, but to him. He would be in tears every time he told the same story over and over again. And so I was like, bro, I don't understand. Like, how can you always be emotional during that story? And he said, the first time I told it, tears came. And when I realized that it was important for me to share that, then I realized that every time I tell it, I have to go there again. I have to put myself in the feeling of what it felt like at the time. And as much as I wished I could have put it behind me and never told that story again, because it does wreck me every time I tell the story, because it made such a profound difference. And I knew it was one of the stories I'm here to tell. If I'm going to tell it, then I'm not going to half-ass it. I have to go all in and go there again. So every time I feel how I felt then, every time I put myself right back in that space, because I owe that to them.
Wow.
Right? And so that's why, everyone, any place I've spoke all over this world, people always came up and said, "Oh my God, you're so authentic. I really felt you when you spoke." Like, and I don't usually feel, even people that don't usually feel come up and say, "You moved me to tears. You, like, I felt you." And that's why, because he shared that with me, and then I just kind of took that on, and have been that ever since. Just authentic, right? Just
Beautiful.
If you're going to tell the story, then don't just tell it.
Convey the
Be
whole
it.
thing. Sure.
Yeah. Whew.
Wow.
Yeah.
John says, when you're doing God's work and message to bring forth, he won't let you pass over until your divine work and message is brought forth. Love your story, Keith. I have been gifted solid proof of spirits with rocks and driftwood that have faces on them to prove what's happening in the world. Last summer, I was gifted a 5D rock. Looks like plasma all blended together. I even have a photo of a gem that was apported during a seance from the Ascended Masters, Buddha, Jesus, Saint Germain, and Metatron. We'll have to have a powwow. John lives near here.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. He's part of the tribe. Karen knows John. So Karen's watching today. So she said Keith opened my mind about the media years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, she too had the suicide thing going on, so she knows how that feels. So
Yeah.
yeah. So really it's it really is all about us taking our power back and standing in our message, walking as the angels that we are. Because, you know, in the past, the human angels walking on earth, the ones such as Jesus, you know, they would get burned at the stake or hung on the cross because those messages were not welcomed on this planet by the powers that be.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see who the powers that be actually are. And there's a lot more angels on this planet than there are demons. So,
I love that. I love that.
right? And they can't just keep taking us out as long as more and more and more of us stand up and we start speaking from our hearts and we start sharing the love that is for all of us.
Mm. Yes.
So people reading this book, Walking with My Angels, this true story by Keith Leon S. This book is an incredible inspiration to be able to start seeing your angels, to start noticing your angels, start looking around, start looking for them, because you know what? If you don't look for them, you're not going to find them. Like, if you allow all of this, the peace, the ease, the love, we have to look for it. It's not going to come drop out of the sky onto our heads. It has to come forth from within. So when we start walking as the angels we are, we start to realize that we are divine, beautiful, gorgeous beings of light. And that we are all filled with love, and we are here to live in peace and harmony with each other, with Mother Nature, with all the realms, the unseen realms and the seen realms, the angelic realms and the human realms. And we are here to do that. If you're here listening at this time, this is why you're here. You're one of the light workers. You're here to make a difference on this planet just by being you. So we love this story. Keith, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all these beautiful stories. We love that.
Been an honor.
So where can people find your books?
Oh, on Amazon. You just type in Keith Leon S. You'll see both the Keith Leon books and the Keith Leon S books.
Beautiful. And they'll find the
Yeah.
Navigating the Clickety Clack, How to Live a Peace-Filled Life in a Seemingly Toxic World series, which is how Keith and I met to begin with, through our beautiful friend Karen Can. So
Yeah.
and Karen, and here we are all back together. Keith's sitting outside of Karen's house. We're all in the same area here, so we can all play together in person, which is such a beautiful thing, having angels coming together to play together in the physical realm.
Mhm. Yes. And so it is.
Oh, it is. Well, Keith, thank you so much. I just love having you on as our guest each month. You always have such incredible wisdom and inspiration to share, and it's always just filled with love. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. We'll see y'all next month.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for another Soulution Sunday, because the soul is the solution. You are the soul. You do not have a soul. You are the soul.
Mm.
So start looking for the peace inside. Start looking for the heaven on earth. Start looking for the other angels, and start by looking in the mirror. You will see the first angel when you look in the mirror.
Mhm.
Everyone, thank you so much. Have a beautiful week, and we'll see you again next week for the Father's Day edition of Soulution Sunday, where you will get to meet my dad. So,
Aw.
yeah, very excited about that. So thanks, everyone. We will see you next week. Thank you, Keith.
You're welcome.